Okay, let's talk about something pretty heavy today. We're diving into power, manipulation, and what happens when things go really wrong in an academic setting.
Yeah, we're looking at a specific story sourced from Reddit, actually. It's about a student and a professor who, well, massively crossed the line.
Massively is putting it mildly. The original post title really lays it out. My professor mid-30s M groped me 20F and offered a better grade for sex. So, yeah.
Right. So our mission here really is to kind of trace how this happened, look at the predator strategy because it was a strategy very planned out.
Definitely premeditated. And we want to highlight the red flags and, crucially, what finally worked. What step actually led to some form of justice here?
Exactly. And we should say up front, trigger warning, the details involve sexual harassment and assault. It's serious stuff.
Absolutely. We're focusing on it because it's unfortunately a really clear example of how this kind of abuse can start, the tactics used, and importantly, how it can be stopped.
So let's start where it began, the grooming phase. This student, OOP original online poster, was in her second year undergrad.
And struggling a bit, right, in her major.
Yeah, feeling vulnerable, which is often when predators make their move. She initially saw this professor, who was in his mid-30s, as this nice guy, like a mentor figure, someone investing in her.
Which is exactly the opening he needed. He immediately started creating this special relationship, gave her his phone number, told her to text him whenever.
Which sounds helpful on the surface, maybe a bit unusual, but okay. But here's where the first big red flag pops up almost instantly.
A phone number itself.
Well, yes, that too. We'll get back to that. But first, just the level of attention. He was tracking her attendance, her homework, like way beyond normal.
So if she missed a class, he'd message her.
Instantly. Or if an assignment was late, just zeroed in on her. And according to her post, he wasn't doing this for other students.
Unless
Oh,
there was an exception.
right. Unless they were part of the specific internship program he supervised at his, quote, other job.
So already selected potential targets, maybe. Using this internship as a way to justify more contact.
Seems like it. It suggests a pattern, or at least a calculated approach. And then the second red flag, the really crucial one about that phone number.
Okay, what was it?
It came out later during the investigation that it wasn't his regular number. It was a Google Voice number.
A burner number, essentially.
Exactly. That's not just being friendly or accessible. That's setting up a separate, deniable communication channel. Classic predator move. It means he could keep demands vague, off official university systems. Pure premeditation.
Wow. Okay, so that really shifts it from maybe inappropriate attention to something much more deliberate, like organized manipulation.
Definitely. And he was using subtle flirting, too. She admitted in the post, sometimes she flirted back a bit because the special attention felt kind of nice.
Which is totally understandable, especially when you're feeling insecure academically. He's grooming her, relying on that positive feeling she got from being singled out.
And constantly pushing boundaries, asking her to stay after class, come back to the empty classroom later, little tests.
Seeing how far he could go. Okay, so he's got the private communication line. He's established this special connection. What's the next step in his playbook?
Generating the leverage, creating the situation where she needs something only he can provide.
Which leads us to the grade trap.
Yep. Finals are coming up. She looks at her progress, realizes she's heading for maybe a C, which, for an undergrad in their major, that's stressful.
Totally. So she does what any student would do. She asks him if there's any extra credit possible.
And that was the moment he was waiting for. That question was the trigger.
How did he respond?
He asked her what she was willing to do, started with subtle hints, then got more direct. When she came back to the classroom to discuss it, he locked the door.
Locked the door. Okay, that's terrifying.
And then physically stood between her and the exit, blocked her path to her backpack, her stuff. Complete isolation. Total physical control of the space.
And then the explicit demand.
Yep.
Quid pro quo. A good grade, but only if she sent him explicit photos and agreed to go back somewhere with him. He put her in this impossible position.
But here's the part that it's mind-blowing. The detail that came out later in the investigation, it wasn't just that she was doing badly.
Right. This is the absolute kicker, the aha moment, if you can call it that. He was found to be purposefully sabotaging her grade the whole time.
He wasn't just taking advantage of her situation, he created her situation.
Exactly. He manufactured the crisis. The low grade wasn't just happening, he was making it happen so she'd be desperate enough to need his extra credit.
How? How did he do that without leaving like an obvious trail?
Well, that's the insidious part of grading sometimes. It wasn't like an email saying, I'm failing you on purpose. It was subjective stuff. When OOP later compared her graded tests with another student's, she found discrepancies. Points docked on her paper for things that weren't marked down on the other students. Stuff you could maybe argue was just trick grading if taken alone.
Plausible deniability. Right. And he also paired her on her final project with a student who was apparently known to struggle or expected to fail. And the project itself got a late start. He was systematically setting her up to fail.
Stacking the deck until she felt trapped. That level of planning is chilling.
It really suggests this wasn't his first time. He knew how to manipulate the academic system, relying on a student feeling too intimidated or too focused on just fixing the grade to question those little point deductions.
Which brings us to the actual incident.
Yeah.
In that locked room, she felt she had no choice.
Yeah.
Agreed to the photos.
Out of sheer panic, yeah. Then he wanted to see them himself, which she apparently thought meant, like, flashing him briefly. But he escalated it.
In the back of the classroom.
Yeah. Asked her to take off her shirt. He touched her breasts. Then asked her to pull down her pants. He touched her buttocks and her vagina.
Oh, God.
She clearly stated then she wasn't comfortable doing anything more, and thankfully he let her leave at that point.
But imagine walking out of there. It's
Yeah.
just the fear. He still holds her grade, her academic future, in his hands.
Exactly. And because he was careful, the Google Voice number, no explicit quid pro quo written down in texts. She was terrified the evidence wasn't strong enough. How do you report someone who controls your transcript without blowing up your own life?
That's the paralyzing question for so many victims, which makes the next part, the advice she got, so incredibly important.
It really is the most actionable takeaway. She reached out, described the situation on Reddit, and the advice was consistent and immediate.
Was it?
Don't go to the department head first. Don't go to the dean first. Go directly, immediately to the Title IX coordinator.
Okay, explain that. Why Title IX specifically? What makes that office different?
So Title IX is a federal law.
Huh.
It prohibits sex discrimination, which includes sexual harassment and assault in any education program getting federal money, basically almost all universities.
So it's not just an internal policy, it's federal law they have to follow.
Right. The Title IX office is mandated to investigate these complaints. Think of it like an internal affairs division, but with federal backing specifically for sex discrimination.
Yep.
And crucially, they provide protection against retaliation. That's the key.
How so?
Once you file a formal Title IX complaint, the university is legally obligated to ensure you're not penalized academically or otherwise while the investigation happens. Your grades, your enrollment status, they're protected.
So it immediately takes away the professor's main weapon, the power over her grades. The department head can't just quietly fail her or pressure her once Title IX is involved.
Exactly. It creates a shield. That leverage is gone.
That's huge. So OAP took that advice.
She did. She documented everything, wrote down the details of the incident immediately, emailed it to herself to create a timestamp, gathered the texts, compared her tests with that other student, noting the grading discrepancies.
Building the case.
Very smart. And strategically, she kept replying to his messages, just brief, non-committal stuff, enough to keep him from getting suspicious while she prepared her formal complaint with Title IX.
Playing the long game until she could make her move.
Wow. Incredible composure under that kind of pressure. It stopped him from realizing what was coming, maybe trying to delete evidence or spin some story about her being disgruntled.
So what happened when she finally went to Title IX?
The outcome, thankfully, was positive. It took time. She updated about 17 months later, but she said the Title IX office was incredibly helpful. They took it seriously and even helped her connect with the police.
And the consequences for the professor?
Immediate and severe. Once the investigation concluded, he was fired instantly from the university and from that other job where he ran the internship program.
So the system, when activated correctly, actually worked.
It did. The investigation confirmed he'd purposefully sabotaged her grades, confirmed the coercion, and importantly,
Other victims came forward.
yes, several other women reported similar incidents once the investigation began. It confirmed the pattern. This wasn't an isolated lapse in judgment, it was his MO.
But there was a bit of institutional resistance elsewhere, wasn't there?
Yeah, and this is also important. While Title IX was helpful, her actual department head was, in her words, less than helpful.
How so?
Apparently, the department head asked her not to talk about it, to keep it quiet, essentially, to avoid damaging the school's reputation.
Ugh, the classic institutional cover-up attempt.
Yeah.
Protect the brand over the student.
Exactly. But because she had already gone through Title IX, that attempt to silence her didn't work. The formal process was already underway and couldn't just be swept under the rug by the department.
That really underscores the importance of going to the right office first.
Absolutely. The long-term impact for OAP is still there, of course. She mentioned it would take her an extra year to graduate, but the university did provide free therapy. She got a restraining order against him.
And she seems focused on healing. She had that powerful quote, Something like, "He won't take any more from me. I will take it back one day."
Yeah. And her final advice in her update really echoes the main point. Tell someone you're not alone. And Title IX, for her, made all the difference.
So wrapping this up, this deep dive really shows the methodical nature of this kind of abuse. It wasn't random, it was calculated. The burner phone, the isolation, the grade sabotage, that's a whole other level of manipulation.
And a crucial lesson seems to be about navigating the system itself. Knowing who to go to first can be the difference between getting protection and getting silenced. Title IX was the key here.
It really provided that essential shield and the power to investigate properly.
Which leads to maybe a final thought to leave people with. We know the professor was fired, that's good. Justice for the victims.
But what about that department head? The one who tried to shut her down to protect the school's image?
Right. What happens there? When institutions prioritize reputation over safety, what's the real cost? Not just to that one student, but to maybe others who saw that and were too scared to come forward themselves.
How often does that kind of pressure, that institutional silencing, become the final barrier a victim faces? It's a really important question.
Definitely something to think about. Until next time.